Hey guys, it's Magaz here. Today we are going to be doing a simple rear wire job on my beloved ICS CXP15K. Rather than doing a complete gearbox teardown and changing out the wiring loom, which is a cost-effective but more technical route you could go down, I will be doing a straight swap of the standard CXP lower gearbox with an ICS SSS or S3 lower designed for the CS4 and non-blowback CXP rifles. This, however, will cost quite a lot more than the wiring loom option, but will give a much nicer trigger pull, improve battery life, and give the AEG some extra diagnostic features. So, let's jump straight in and install this bad boy. For simplicity's sake, we're starting here with the gun already broken down into its two main parts, the upper and lower receiver. So at this point you can actually discard the upper receiver. We're going to be working entirely with the lower. Here's the front wires, which did originally go out into the handguard. We're going to be rewiring it so it comes out like this. Now this gearbox is from an MP5, but you get the idea. We're going to be rear wiring it so it comes out at the rear end of the gearbox and into the buffer tube. So we're going to be dropping in this entirely brand new S3 lower gearbox. This means we're not going to have to mess about with a wiring loom, but basically it's a straight swap for the standard gearbox, and it adds some extra functions with the S3 trigger, which is good. Put that over there. So to start, what we are going to do is remove this collapsible buttstock. Next, we're moving on to this magazine release. It's just a single crosshead screw. Pull that out and put it somewhere, like that. Next is the fake bolt catch. Now, on the front wired AEGs, this just holds the wires in place. You can take this off, put it somewhere else. If you want, at this point, you can actually reattach that. That's fine. You don't have to. Now we're removing the base plate. Now, this is two crosshead screws. Pull those bad boys out, and the base plate will come free. There we go, that's a base plate. Inside, there are two wires, a positive and negative, red and black. Pull out the motor and use a crosshead screwdriver to remove the two screws that hold the pistol grip on, and then carefully remove the pistol grip, trying not to knacker your wires up. The gearbox pulls free! That's your gearbox. Check that out, boys! So now what we're going to do is install this S3 gearbox. It's super simple. First of all, what I'm going to do is remove the buffer tube. We don't actually need this part anymore. This is the end cap for the buffer tube. Throw that away. We're going to remove the buffer tube. There's a Phillips screw just inside there. Unscrew that and it'll come straight out. So now the gearbox is ready to go back into the gun. It's basically just a reverse process of the taking it out process. So it's pretty damn simple. First things first, we're going to take out this blade fuse. That's just because we're using the old style buffer tube and it's pretty difficult to fit it through there with that thing in. So, step one is insert this through the back of the receiver just there and pull it. The wires need to go straight down and out through the bottom where the pistol grip would live. And then we drop this in here. Now at this point, depending on where your selector plate is on the side of the gearbox, you might need to give it a bit of a jiggle and a wiggle of the fire selector, but it should just drop straight in with no issues. Now that's in, it's a good idea to start securing it. Now the first step I like to do here is reattach the magazine release. So you just pop that through there, put in the spring, and then screw on the button. So that's in place now, and as you can see, the gearbox is sort of holding in place nicely. Now we're going to attach the pistol grip. So first of all, let's move this crap out of the way. First of all, take the red wire and put it through the rear hole of the pistol grip and the black one through the front. Carefully slide it up. Line up the little indentations on the gearbox with the little nubs on the inside of the pistol grip, and it should sit nicely in place. Put those screws back in. We're jumping about a little bit here, but this is the buffer tube. This is an old style buffer tube where the wire is actually going to have to run through the inside of the tube. The newer versions, they actually go through a little section in the lower rail. So what I'm doing first is putting on the rear sling mount, and then I'm going to feed the mini Tamiya connector through here. There's a tiny little, you can't really see it here because I'm actually looking through it, not the camera. Well done, Magaz. There's a tiny little groove in there that it's got to fit through. Once that's through, it'll stick out at the end. And this little flange drops into the buffer tube, and then the screw goes in. And then you all know how to screw things, right? Once that's secured in place, give it a wiggle, check it's solid. At this point, you can actually reinstall the blade fuse. It's important that you put that back in, because if you don't, there'll be no complete circuit and your gun won't do anything. I like to tuck this wire out of the way at this point so I don't snag it on anything or break it or be stupid. So here's the motor. You got to take note of which direction you're putting this in. I mean, it's not really important which direction you put it in, but it is important that you connect the red wire to the red plug, and you get the idea. Positive to positive, negative to negative. You want to make sure these are firmly connected, but try not to snap them because they are pretty fragile. You don't want them to be loose, because if they are loose, they'll come off when the gun's firing, and then you'll be in the middle of a field with no working gun, and that is not what you want. So once these are connected, you're going to notice that they're sticking up in a weird angle. That's because they're brand new, they've not been bent into shape yet. So you want to carefully and gently bend them down 90 degrees so they sit flush like this, so you can put your base plate back on. Once we've done this, that's the next step. We're going to reinstall the base plate. So you just want to make sure your wires are just tucked out the way, making sure they're not over the screw holes, because if you screw through the wires, you're going to connect your circuit to the bloody motor, and that's probably going to blow your fuse and set your LiPo on fire, all that good stuff. So don't do any of that. Take care when you're reinstalling this base plate. Bear in mind that it should just sit flush with no pressure. If you have to force it, you've done something wrong. So here we go, nice screwing session just here as usual. Now the base plate's on. If you haven't already reinstalled this part, it's about now. You should probably reattach this. It's not really needed anymore because it's not guiding the wires anywhere. It's just for aesthetics, because the real AR-15 has a bolt holding open device, or a bolt catch, or a bolt release, whatever you want to call it. So the airsoft version should, so it's looking real. Yeah? Cool. Now that's in there, that's basically the entire rear wire job done. So you'll see here there is a smooth spot on this gear. Now it's important that that is oriented like that. Otherwise, when you put this together, it's not going to go together properly, and you could damage the gears, the piston, and or the tappet plate, and your pride. You will definitely damage your pride. So just make sure everything's lined up. You can click that gearbox upper and lower together, and then all you need to do is drop in those pins, and you're basically ready to rock. The only other thing you're going to have to consider is your buttstock, because now there's a gaping hole in the back of it where your battery and wiring is going to stick out. I'm going to change this over to the MTR stock, the same as I've got on my Mars, but you could just put a rubber butt pad on this, which I've done on another CS4 rifle in the past, just so it covers that hole, or a bit of gaffer tape will do the job if you're super ghetto. So there we go, that's that. Check that out. Completely rear wired CXP15K. If you've enjoyed this video and found it useful, please leave a comment down below. If you've got any more questions, leave them in the comment section. Hit like, hit subscribe, share this video with your friends, your mum, and the old ladies at the old folks home. As always, I'm Magaz. Thanks for watching, and remember kids, the air may be soft, but our balls are hard. So one last thing quickly before I actually completely sign off. You will notice that at one point during this video, the trigger does change from the standard M4 style trigger to the Mars speed trigger. Now this is because I wanted the Mars speed trigger in there because it just looks cool. But I did find something out when installing this into this version of the S3 gearbox. That's the version for the CS4 or non-blowback CXP rifles. Comes with a modified trigger which has a small little nub on it, which means the trigger pull is actually only a few millimeters, And if you put a standard M4 or CXP trigger in there, or even the Mars speed trigger, which has the standard front on there, basically you're going to have a longer trigger pull, and you're going to completely remove the usefulness of the S3 trigger, because that trigger pull is now super long and delayed. So if you are going to use this gearbox, I would definitely recommend sticking with that standard OG trigger.